Update: How I systematically destroyed my cheating ex-husband and his gold-digging mistress and got my son back. TLODR at bottom for people who want the juicy parts first. Holy shit, Reddit. I can't believe I'm finally posting this, but here we are. This happened over 4 years and just reached its conclusion last month. Some of you might think this is fake, but I honestly don't care. I need to get this off my chest, and maybe it'll help someone else going through something similar. Also, throwaway account for obvious reasons. My ex and his trashy girlfriend both use Reddit, or used to when they could afford internet, so I'm being careful. So I, 39 female, and this story starts about 8 years ago. My parents died when I was 22 in a small plane crash. Dad was a pilot. They left me their house, worth about $180,000 at the time, and a decent life insurance payout, around $220,000 total after taxes and funeral costs. I was smart with the money, sold the house, invested most of it in index funds, and used some to finish my nursing degree debt-free. By 28, I was working as a nurse practitioner, making $85,000 a year, and my investments had grown to about $380,000, thanks to some good market years. That's when I met Ryan, 31 male. He was working as a warehouse supervisor making $38,000 a year, driving a beat-up 2003 Honda Civic, living in a studio apartment. But he was charming, funny, and seemed genuine. Most importantly, he didn't know about my money situation initially. I lived modestly, and we always split bills on dates. After we'd been dating for about 6 months, I told him about my financial situation. His reaction seemed perfect. He was happy for me, but insisted he didn't want my money, wanted to build something together. All that romantic bullshit that makes you think you found a good one. We got married when I was 30. I kept my money separate at first, but gradually started paying for more things. His student loans, $23,000, a better apartment, eventually a down payment on a house. When our son Mason was born when I was 32, I was basically covering 80% of our expenses, while Ryan contributed maybe $2,400 a month from his salary. The house was the big one, $185,000, and I put down $45,000. The mortgage was in both our names, but I was making all the payments. Around this time, Ryan got promoted to warehouse manager making $48,000, and I thought things were looking up. That's when Jessica started appearing. Jessica, his childhood friend, who'd apparently been like a sister to him growing up. Funny how she only became sisterly after I started paying for everything. She was 28, worked part-time at a boutique, probably making $16,000 a year, still lived with roommates, but always had her nails done and drove a newer car than Ryan's. Coffee dates, gym sessions, she even started showing up to family barbecues. Anytime I expressed discomfort, Ryan would accuse me of being insecure and controlling. Classic manipulation that I was too naive to recognize. The red flags were everywhere. Ryan started working overtime constantly, but his paycheck stayed the same. He became distant, critical of everything I did. He started undermining me with Mason. Little comments like, "Mommy works too much," or "Mommy's always tired and grumpy." But I stayed because I thought I was building a family. I thought Ryan was just going through a rough patch. I thought love would fix everything. God, I was stupid. So here we get to the main event. My 35th birthday, October 15th, 2019. Dates burned into my memory forever. Ryan had been working late for 3 weeks straight. I'd barely seen him except when he came home after 11 p.m., claiming his boss was demanding overtime for some big shipment project. Mason was 8 and in 3rd grade, and honestly, I just wanted a quiet family dinner for my birthday. I took the day off work, picked Mason up from school early, and we went grocery shopping together. I let him pick out ingredients for homemade pizza, his favorite, and we got a small chocolate cake from the bakery section. Nothing fancy, maybe $35 total, but I thought it would be nice. Mason was actually excited. "We're gonna surprise Daddy when he gets home," he kept saying. It was the first time in weeks he'd seemed happy about family time. I spent the afternoon cleaning the house, prepping the pizza dough, wrapping up some work stuff on my laptop. Mason did his homework at the kitchen table while I cooked, and for a few hours it felt like we were a normal family again. 6 p.m. Ryan usually got home around 6:30, so I started getting everything ready. 7 p.m. I texted him, "How much longer? Mason's excited to celebrate with you." No response. 8 p.m. Called him, straight to voicemail. 8:30 p.m. Mason was getting cranky and hungry. I heated up some leftover chicken nuggets for him but told him we'd wait for Daddy for the pizza and cake. 9 p.m. Mason fell asleep on the couch. I covered him with a blanket and sat in the kitchen staring at my phone. 9:47 p.m. My phone buzzes with a message, but it's not from Ryan. It's from Jessica. I almost didn't open it. We weren't friends, barely knew each other beyond polite hellos at Ryan's work events. But something made me click on it. It was a video message, 47 seconds long. The first thing I see is Jessica's face, all smiling and fake sweet. "Hi, Sarah! Just wanted to share some fun moments from tonight." Then the camera pans to show Ryan and Mason at what looks like Dave and Buster's. You know, that arcade restaurant place that costs like $80 for a family of three. Mason is hugging Jessica, really hugging her, arms around her waist like she's his mom. And then I hear his voice clear as day. "I wish you were my real mom, Jessica. You're so much more fun than my mom. She never takes me anywhere cool like this." The video continues. Ryan's laughing, ruffling Mason's hair. "What do you think, buddy? Should Jessica be your new mom?" "Yes!" Mason practically shouts. "My real mom is always working and she's boring. Jessica is pretty and fun and she buys me stuff." Jessica giggles and hugs Mason tighter. "Maybe someday, sweetie. Would you like that?" "I would love that. I want Jessica to be my mom instead." The video ends with Jessica winking at the camera. I sat in my kitchen for 20 minutes just staring at my phone. The pizza dough I'd made was still sitting on the counter, covered with a towel. The birthday cake had 35 unlit candles stuck in it. My 8-year-old son was asleep on the couch, and somewhere across town my husband was playing Happy Family with his mistress and my child. On my birthday. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just felt this weird, cold calm settle over me. I went upstairs, pulled out my suitcase, and started packing. By the time Ryan stumbled in at 12:30 a.m., I was sitting in the living room with my suitcase packed and divorce papers printed out. Thank God for online legal services. I'd found a template, filled it out, and printed everything while Mason slept. Ryan looked genuinely confused when he saw me sitting there in the dark with one lamp on. "Sarah? What's going on? Why are you awake?" I slid the papers across the coffee table. "I want a divorce." He actually laughed. Actually fucking laughed. "Over what? Because I had to work late?" "Sarah, you're being dramatic again." "Sign the papers, Ryan." He picked them up and started flipping through them, like they were a joke. "You're not serious. You're leaving with nothing? Where are you even going to go?" That's when I realized how little he actually knew about me, even after 7 years together. He had no idea about my investments, my savings, my independence. He thought I was completely dependent on him. "Just sign them." "Fine," he said, grabbing a pen. "But Mason stays with me. You'll never get custody. What judge is going to give a kid to a woman who works 50 hours a week and ignores her family?" That's when we both heard footsteps on the stairs. Mason appeared, rubbing his eyes, still in his school clothes from earlier. "What's happening? Why is Mommy's suitcase out?" Ryan knelt down next to him. "Mommy wants to leave us, buddy. She doesn't want to be a family anymore." I watched my 8-year-old son's face crumple, but instead of running to me for comfort, he looked at me with something I'd never seen before. Anger. "Are you leaving because you don't love me?" "Mason, baby, it's complicated." "No!" he screamed. "Jessica said you might leave because you don't really love me. She said some mommies are bad and leave their kids." My heart stopped. "Jessica said what?" Ryan stood up quickly. "Mason, go back to bed. The adults are talking." But Mason wasn't done. "I don't want you to leave, but if you're gonna be mean, then I don't care. Jessica is nicer than you anyway. She buys me toys and takes me fun places, and she doesn't work all the time." Each word was like a knife. This child I'd carried for 9 months, nursed through every fever, read bedtime stories to every night, he was choosing her over me. "Fine," I said, my voice eerily calm. "Then it's settled. Ryan gets full custody. I'll sign away my parental rights." The room went silent. Even Mason stopped crying. Ryan looked shocked. "Sarah, wait! You don't mean that." "Sign the papers, Ryan. Both of you get what you want." I stood up, grabbed my suitcase, and headed for the door. "Where are you going?" Ryan called after me. I turned back one last time, away from people who think I'm so easily replaceable. I drove straight to the airport and caught the first flight out. Ended up in Denver at 6 a.m. with no plan and one suitcase. But you know what? I had my bank account, my nursing license, and for the first time in years, complete freedom. I rented a studio apartment in a decent neighborhood for $1,200 a month and started job hunting. Within 2 weeks, I had a position at Denver General, making $78,000. Not bad for a fresh start. The first year was rough. I won't lie. I missed Mason every single day. I'd find myself buying little gifts for him, then remembering he wasn't there. I'd wake up in a panic thinking I'd forgotten to pack his lunch or sign a permission slip. But slowly, I started remembering who I was before I became Ryan's wife and Mason's mom. I made friends at work, actual friends who liked me for me, not because I paid for everything. I started hiking, took a pottery class, learned Spanish. I was living on about $55,000 a year and investing the rest. Here's the thing though. I kept tabs on Ryan and Jessica through social media and mutual acquaintances. Call it morbid curiosity, but I needed to know how my son was doing. What I found was interesting. 6 months after I left, Ryan and Jessica moved in together in my house, the one I'd paid the down payment for. Jessica quit her boutique job and started posting Instagram photos of herself as a stay-at-home stepmom and boy mom. Lots of pictures of her and Mason at expensive places, theme parks, fancy restaurants, shopping trips. But here's the thing. Ryan was still making $48,000 a year. Jessica wasn't working. How were they affording all this? A little digging revealed the answer. Ryan had taken out a second mortgage on the house. He'd also opened 3 credit cards and was carrying about $18,000 in debt. They were living on borrowed money and credit, maintaining an Instagram lifestyle they couldn't afford. Meanwhile, my investments were doing great. Denver's cost of living was lower than home, and I was socking away about $35,000 a year. By year 3, my portfolio had grown to about $520,000. That's when I started planning my return. I spent year 4 doing research. Deep research. Deep. Through a former co-worker who still lived in my old town, I learned that Ryan and Jessica were in serious financial trouble. The house, my house, was 3 months behind on mortgage payments. Ryan had been demoted at work after some incident with inventory discrepancies, probably stealing, knowing him. Jessica was working at a nail salon making maybe $25,000 a year, all of which went to maintaining her appearance and buying Mason's affection. But the best part? Mason was miserable. My former neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, who'd always liked me, started sending me updates through Facebook. Mason was acting out at school, his grades had dropped from A's to C's and D's, and he'd been suspended twice for fighting. Mrs. Patterson told me that she could hear Jessica screaming at Mason almost daily when Ryan wasn't home. Things like, "I'm not your real mother, so don't expect me to put up with your shit," and "Your real mom abandoned you, so you better appreciate what you have." My heart broke for him, but I also knew that rushing back in would accomplish nothing. I needed leverage. That's when I found it. I hired a private investigator. Cost me $3,500 but worth every penny. What we found was better than I could have hoped for. Ryan hadn't just been financially irresponsible, he'd been stealing from his employer. Small amounts at first, skimming cash from the register, but then larger things. He'd been taking merchandise and selling it on Facebook Marketplace. Over 3 years, he'd stolen approximately $31,000 worth of goods in cash. But it gets better. Jessica had been cheating on Ryan with his younger brother, Mike. The PI got photos, text messages, everything. Apparently, it had been going on for about 8 months. She was planning to leave Ryan for Mike, who made more money as an electrician. Jessica was also lying about money constantly. She'd told Ryan she was making $35,000 at the salon when she was really making $23,000. She'd been stealing from Ryan's wallet and Mason's piggy bank to pay for her nails, hair, and clothes. The house was about to be foreclosed on. They owed $142,000 on the mortgage plus the $28,000 second mortgage, but the house was only worth about $155,000 now due to damage and neglect. I had everything I needed. It was time to go home. I moved back to town in September 2023, 4 years after I left. I bought a small house in a nice neighborhood for $165,000 cash, 3 bedrooms, good school district, about 10 minutes from Mason's school. I got a job at the regional medical center, making $92,000 a year, better than what I'd been making before I left. I was in the best shape of my life, financially and emotionally stable, and ready for war. The first step was re-establishing contact with Mason. I started small. I knew his school schedule, so I began volunteering for school events. I helped with the fall festival, chaperoned field trips, donated supplies. I never approached Mason directly, but I made sure he saw me there, being a good community member. The 3rd week, he came up to me at the book fair. "Mom?" He looked uncertain, like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to talk to me. "Hi, baby." I knelt down to his level. He was 12 now, almost as tall as me, but still my little boy. Are you back?" "I'm back. I got a job at the hospital and I bought a house here." His face went through a series of expressions. "Jessica said you moved away because you didn't love me anymore." "Mason, I have loved you every single day since you were born. I never stopped loving you." "Then why did you leave?" "Because sometimes adults make mistakes, and I thought leaving would be better for you." I was wrong. That night, Mason called me. Apparently, he'd saved my number in his phone from when he was little, and I used to text him pictures and jokes. Mom, can I can I see your new house? Of course you can. Anytime you want. Can I come tomorrow after school? I'll pick you up. When I picked him up from school the next day, he was quiet for the first 10 minutes. Then, Mom, I need to tell you something. Jessica is really mean when Dad's not around. She calls me names and says, I'm the reason she can't have her own kids with Dad. What kind of names, baby? She calls me a little bastard and says I'm just like my crazy mom who abandoned me. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. Has she ever hit you? No, but she throws things sometimes. And she locked me in my room for a whole day once when Dad was at work because I spilled juice on her purse. I took Mason to my new house and showed him around. I'd set up one of the bedrooms as a kid's room, not specifically for him, just in case he ever wanted to stay over. His face lit up when he saw it. Is this for me? It's for any kid who needs a safe place to sleep. We ordered pizza and watched movies. For the first time in 4 years, I felt like I had my son back. That night after I dropped him off, I finalized my plan. I started by anonymously reporting Ryan's theft to his employer. I mailed copies of all the evidence to his manager, HR, and the owner of the company. I also sent copies to the local police. Ryan was arrested at work 3 days later. While he was dealing with that, I sent all the evidence of Jessica's affair to Mike's wife. Yes, he was married. I also sent copies to Ryan's parents, who had always supported Jessica and blamed me for the divorce. But here's where it gets really good. I had been quietly documenting Jessica's treatment of Mason through our conversations and some recordings he made on his phone, with my guidance. In our state, emotional abuse of a child is grounds for emergency custody modification. I filed for emergency custody of Mason, citing documented emotional abuse and Ryan's recent arrest. I had photos of Mason's declining grades, statements from teachers about his behavior changes, and recordings of Jessica verbally abusing him. The hearing was scheduled for a Friday morning. Ryan was out on bail but facing felony theft charges. Jessica had no legal standing since she wasn't Mason's stepmother. Ryan had never married her. Thursday night, Mason called me crying. Mom, Jessica found out about the custody thing. She's screaming at Dad saying it's all my fault. She said if the judge makes me live with you, she's leaving and taking everything. Are you safe right now, baby? I'm locked in my room. But Mom, I want to come live with you. I'm sorry I said those mean things before. I was just a little kid and Jessica told me lies about you. Pack a bag, Mason. I'm coming to get you. But what about Dad? Let me worry about your dad. I drove to the house, my house that I'd paid for, and knocked on the door. Ryan answered, looking like he'd aged 10 years in the past week. Sarah, this isn't a good time. I'm here for Mason. You can't just take him. We have a hearing tomorrow. Actually, I can. I have an emergency custody order. I handed him the papers. Mason is coming with me tonight. Jessica appeared behind him, looking absolutely unhinged. Her hair was unwashed, her makeup was smeared, and she was wearing pajamas at 7 p.m. This is your fault, she screamed at me. You ruined everything. Ryan was happy before you came back. Ryan was happy when he was stealing from his job, and you were cheating with his brother. Her face went white. Ryan turned to look at her. What is she talking about, Jessica? I have photos, I said calmly, and text messages. Mike's wife was very grateful for the information. That's when Jessica completely lost it. She started screaming, throwing things, calling me every name in the book. Ryan was staring at her like he was seeing her for the first time. Mason appeared at the top of the stairs with a backpack. I'm ready, Mom. As we walked to my car, I turned back to Ryan. The custody hearing is at 10 a.m. tomorrow. You can contest it if you want, but I have 4 years of documentation of Mason's declining welfare under your care, plus your recent arrest. Your choice. Ryan didn't show up to the hearing. 6 months later, here's where everyone ended up. Ryan, convicted of felony theft, sentenced to 18 months in county jail, got out in 10 months for good behavior. Lost his job, obviously, can't find decent work with a felony record. Currently working part-time at a gas station, making $12 per hour. Living in a studio apartment that costs $850 a month, so he's barely breaking even. The house got foreclosed on. Since I'd paid the down payment and most of the mortgage for 6 years, I had first right of refusal. I bought it at auction for $118,000, about $67,000 less than what I'd originally invested in it. Jessica. Mike's wife threw her out immediately after seeing the evidence. Mike wanted nothing to do with her once his wife threatened divorce. Jessica tried to stay with Ryan, but when he got arrested and had no money, she disappeared. Last I heard from Mrs. Patterson, Jessica was working at a truck stop diner about 200 miles away, living with some guy she met online. Her Instagram went from blessed stepmom life to completely deleted. Mason, thriving. His grades went from C's and D's back to A's and B's within 2 months of living with me. He's in counseling to deal with the emotional abuse, but he's like a completely different kid. Happy, confident, silly again. He calls Ryan twice a week and visits him every other weekend when Ryan's not working. Ryan has apologized to both of us multiple times and seems to genuinely understand how badly he messed up. But Mason has made it clear he wants to live with me permanently. Me. I'm doing better than ever. I'm 39, debt-free, own my house outright, have about $580,000 in investments, and make $92,000 a year. I'm dating a pediatrician I met at work, and Mason loves him. But the best revenge? Last month, Jessica tried to contact me through Facebook. Her message, "Hey Sarah, I hope you're doing well. I've been thinking about Mason a lot and I miss him. I know we had our differences, but I really did love him like my own son. I was wondering if maybe I could see him sometime. I'm in a better place now, and I think it would be good for him to have continuity with his parental figures. Let me know. XOXO Jessica." I screenshot it and sent it to Mason. He's 13 now, old enough to see who she really is. His response, "Block her, Mom. She's not my family, you are." So I replied to Jessica, "No," and blocked her. 3 days later, she tried messaging me from a different account. "Please, Sarah, I'm really struggling right now, and I just need to see Mason. I know I made mistakes, but I'm trying to turn my life around. Maybe we could meet for coffee and talk. I could really use help getting back on my feet." There it was. She wasn't missing Mason. She was broke and looking for someone to bail her out. I replied, "I said no. Do not contact me or my son again, or I will file a harassment complaint." She sent one more message. "You're a cold bitch. No wonder Ryan cheated on you. Mason's going to grow up and realize what kind of person you really are." I forwarded that to the police and filed a harassment report. Haven't heard from her since. The real victory. Last week, Mason brought home a school project about heroes. He wrote about me. The essay said, "My hero is my mom because she never gave up on me even when I was mean to her. She went away for a while, but she came back stronger and saved me from a bad situation. She works hard to take care of us, and she always keeps her promises. She taught me that sometimes you have to be brave and stand up for yourself, even when it's scary. 4 years ago, I was a broken woman who thought her life was over. Today, I have my son back, financial security, and the satisfaction of watching two terrible people face the consequences of their actions. Sometimes the best revenge isn't dramatic confrontation or public humiliation. Sometimes it's just living your best life while they destroy themselves. Ryan made his choices. Jessica made hers. I made mine. And Mason? He's choosing to be with the parent who actually loves him unconditionally." Edit. Holy shit, this blew up. Thanks for all the support, everyone. A few people are asking for updates, but honestly, this is the end of the story. Ryan's learning to be a better person. Mason is happy and healthy, and Jessica is out of our lives forever. Sometimes justice is just quiet. Edit 2. For everyone asking about the recordings, yes, they were legal in our state as long as one party, Mason, consented. I consulted with my lawyer before using them in court. Always check your local laws. Edit 3. Someone asked about Mason's therapy. Yes, he's still in counseling and probably will be for a while. Emotional abuse leaves scars, but he's incredibly resilient and has made huge progress. The therapist says he's one of the emotionally healthiest kids she works with now. Final edit. I'm turning off notifications for this post. Thank you all for the kind words and support. For anyone going through something similar, document everything. Prioritize your children's actual well-being over your ego, and remember that the best revenge is a life well lived. Peace out, Reddit. Love.